Hi friends, and thank you for checking out the Samvia 14 tooth point cutting shear. And a little hint here, it's not a blending shear, and it's not a texturizing shear. So what is it? This is actually a shear that's meant to replace point cutting. Very often when we're trying to get very soft ends, create these beautiful bobs with soft finishes or layers with soft edges, we go in and we do lots and lots of little tiny point cuts to get that soft edge. Well, the challenge of that is it puts a lot of abuse on a very, very small portion of your shear. And because we're having to create so many tiny little cuts as we go across that section, we are opening and closing that shear a lot. That puts a lot of abuse on our hands. So the idea of the 14 tooth point cutting shear is that we can cut the line in a few strokes and get a really similar finish to what it feels like with that tedious point cutting. Now, how does the shear do this magical thing? Well, it's because there's 14 very wide teeth here, but right here, this is actually a polished blade. It doesn't do any cutting. So what happens is as you're cutting, the hair is pushing slightly with each tooth. So each tooth isn't cutting a blunt block. It's actually cutting short to long, because the hair is pushing along that polished blade. So you get almost this scalloped sort of texture. And because you're hitting the hair in a couple different places as you go across your section, it gives you this really diffused, really movable, and highly textured edge. Now we know what you're all wondering, and the big question is, can I use it as a texturizing shear? Well, like Sammy says, failure comes in cans and success comes in cans. So of course you can. Get creative, have fun with every shear that we have. But the purpose of this particular shear, like I mentioned, was to replace that tedious process of with I hope you like the sound effects. The shear is designed with all of the quality aspects you expect in a Samvia shear. High quality Japanese molybdenum steel. You've got the polymer inlay in the pivot so that you don't wear out your shear. And you have the true balance tension system so that you have even tension all the way from the pivot to the tip, which is exceptionally important when it comes to a shear that has teeth. And you have options when it comes to the 14 tooth point cutting shear. We've got two handles available for you. We have the classic handle, which has a little less offset to it, and we have the signature handle, which many of you love because it has that very forward set thumb for great ergonomic feel. Now, some of you might be wondering, why did we not do this particular shear with the reversible handle that you see on many of our blending shears? Well, if you remember back to the beginning of the video, this is not a blending and texturizing shear. So what we discovered is with this particular shear, we didn't need that ability to flip the shear. And in fact, the one thing that we were very sure of is where we put the solid blade. Very often on this type of shear, you see the solid blade on top. The solid blade is on bottom because that's where we want to bring the hair to. And then as we lift the shear, the hair will drop back onto this surface so you can cut again. If it was upside down this way, as you would cut, the hair would stay trapped in between the teeth. So we thought of everything. So if you're like me and you've spent a lot of your life going to point cut every single piece of hair, think that you might want to check out the 14 tooth point cutting shear. I'm going to tell you the truth, I wanted to hate it, but I ended up loving it. So you might want to check it out. It's going to save you a lot of stress and save wear and tear on your shears. If you have any questions on the 14 tooth point cutting shear, please reach out to us. We love to hear from you. And thank you so much for watching.